Just get the badge in.
Get the badge in, look.
Right, so why did I start making my own bait? I get asked this question a fair bit, to be honest. Those of you that knew me sort of like before boxing know that I've always been into my carp fishing. Fishing some special waters back in the day, travelling like fairway to sort of other lakes after some sort of like some special carp basically. I was obsessed with carp fishing back then. When I started boxing, the fishing had to stop. I had to fully focus on the boxing, and if I'm honest, I didn't think I'd ever get back into fishing. It didn't interest me sort of at that time.
Right now, there, Fox is dropping them. He's unsteady. Big right hand over the top, and he took that pretty well, Graham Sinclair, but that was a monster shot there from Anthony Fox. He's landed that 2 or 3 times.
But yeah, then sort of 2020 came, and with lockdown, sort of I found myself getting back into it and finding a love for fishing again. Although like I wasn't quite obsessed with it as I was back then, and mainly I was just sort of like travelling to local waters, having a few out with my mates and stuff, and around 3 years later, in 2023, I remember seeing a post on Facebook about some of the big bait companies. Their ingredients sort of have been leaked, supposedly, and basically it sounded like some of these baits that we were all paying sort of like top prices for were just full of cheap rubbish ingredients. Now, whether that was true or not, it still got me thinking. I didn't actually know what was in the bait, and the only way for me to sort of guarantee the quality that's in that bait was for me to make my own. And I spoke to my mate Luke, and we came up with a couple of ideas, and I went and got some cheap rolling equipment and started off rolling up some recipes, and we started testing them on a local lake, not necessarily hard water, just like fairly easy water, just to test it out. And pretty soon it became apparent that sort of one of the recipes was significantly outperforming the others, and this is what's now known as the carp crack. And so after saving up a bit of money, I bought some better rolling equipment. Even though it was a nightmare sometimes, jamming up the machine and plenty of other mess ups. I finally had a way of sort of making a fair amount of bait in a relatively short time. A few more mates had started using this bait now, and had also been having lots of success, which I was buzzing about, even though it isn't quite as good as catching sort of like the fish myself. Having someone catch on bait that sort of like I've made is a great feeling. Sort of hard to explain unless you sort of like do it, I suppose. Anyway, eventually sort of like I found a Boilies steamer after a I was looking for ages, but eventually I found a Boilies steamer on Facebook Marketplace, and I drove straight to Paynton in the middle of the night to pick it up, and steaming the baits. What this meant was sort of like one, sort of a better quality bait, doing keeping all those nutrients locked in and not basically boiling the shit out of them, and two, it made it far easier to make sort of larger quantities of bait. Obviously not like crazy amounts, but it was doing it a load easier rather than sort of boiling them over a little fryer. So this bait sort of now had success in waters sort of up and down the country. Not obviously there haven't been loads of people using it, but yeah, and even abroad, in France, like, yeah, basically it's worked everywhere, sort of yeah, proofs in the pudding a little bit. Yeah, obviously sort of like, as maybe a few of you might know, obviously my obsession has sort of like come back now, so I'm like fishing as much as possible. But yeah, I've got so much confidence in this bait, and even though it would be sort of much easier to buy some ready-made bait from a shop, and it would be far less time consuming, I think I'll always make and use my own bait, even if I don't sell a single boilie ever again.